Since 2021, I have been observing the rise of battery swapping technology for heavy-duty trucks. By 2022, these trucks account for nearly half of all zero-emission vehicle trucks, heavy-duty trucks in China. In 2023, I had the opportunity to visit Shanghai's Linjiang port, where I saw battery swapping in action on a mobile station. I also went to Tangshan, the leading city in China for battery swapping heavy-duty trucks, and accompanied California State Agency Secretary Ami Shakun and Cal EPA Secretary Garcia to a cement company in Hainan province. This company had converted 500 of its 1,000 heavy-duty trucks to battery swappable heavy-duty trucks. I also went to Shanghai with Commissioner Patty Monahan of CEC to visit 2 battery swap station manufacturers around Shanghai. Upon returning to the US, we decided to organize this forum to present this innovative business model. So I wouldn't call it a breakthrough technology. I think it's mostly a business model to stakeholders in California to explore the potential for a demonstration project. So we at this moment, we don't know whether it's workable in the United States or not, but we want to have a try to see whether it's feasible here. Our goal is to assess whether this model could be viable in the US despite its success in China. And thanks to the support of Secretary Ami Shakun and your group, Commissioner Monahan and CEC staffers, and our Director Dan Sperling, we're excited to have this forum today. Please join me in welcoming Secretary Tox Ami Shakun of the California Transportation Agency to the podium. Thank you.
An excellent morning. Good morning. Come on, guys, wake up. Good morning. How's everybody doing? Very good. Welcome to this truly exciting event, a one-of-a-kind event in this state and for sure in transportation in our state. As Dr. Wang mentioned, we've had a chance to visit China and see this technology firsthand, and getting a chance to experience it and see it. I think this forum, this idea of us coming together to discuss this is very much worthwhile. So I want to start off with several thanks before I get to my formal remarks here. First, as Dr. Wang mentioned, I want to thank the CEC Commissioner Patty Monahan for being the co-host with me on today's event. With our overlapping goals, the ongoing collaboration between CalSTA and CEC continues to be invaluable. So thank you to Commissioner Monahan for all her work, and Chair Hochschild, the entire team there. I also want to thank our CARB representative today. Where is she? I'm sorry. She's in the room. Please tell me your name one more time. Annalisa. Annalisa, thank you for being here. Thank you for stepping in for the leadership team at CARB. Annalisa is the head of infrastructure efforts at CARB, and a lot of partnership with us on the transportation and specifically Caltrans on many fronts. So Annalisa, thanks for being here and representing CARB this morning. And of course, as has been mentioned already, I want to acknowledge the UC Davis Institute of Transportation Studies, the team for partnering with us to set up this entire event. Specifically, ITS Director, everybody knows him in the transportation space for sure in the state, Dan Sperling. He has a new nickname that I'm going to be calling him moving forward. He's going to be known henceforth as the Emperor of Transportation. He mentioned the fact that 30 years ago, he helped start this institute. So Dan, thanks for the tenured history of doing great things for transportation in California and setting up ITS. Also, again, thanks to the China Center for Energy and Transportation leader, Yoshi Wang. Dr. Wang, thank you very much for all that you do for transportation as well in setting this up. And also graduate student researcher Timothy Hughes. If you haven't had a chance to meet Tim, he's also been very instrumental in arranging this forum this morning. So Tim, thanks for your work on this. My gratitude also to those who have traveled from far, near and far, I should say, but very far, is Mr. Lugo Lee. Where's Mr. Lee? Oh, right here. Mr. Lugo Lee, who's Secretary General of the China Battery Swapping Heavy Duty Truck Alliance. He's come all the way from China, arrived just yesterday. So thank you for coming all the way down from China. We look forward to the continued partnership and discussions on this issue. So, by the way, before I move further, I want to also recognize our transportation team that is in the room. There are several staff members from Caltrans and CalSTA who are here. If you have not had a chance to meet our transportation team, please meet them before they leave. Both our international team and our freight team and our communications team, they are present. Alana, Giles, if you could wave, those guys, they heavily involved in setting this up. Christine Afi, wave, and Tammy McGowan. I don't know if I'm missing anybody else, but please give these guys a hand. They work very hard for transportation for the state. So in March of this year, I participated in a climate engagement delegation to China. And Commissioner Monahan also traveled to China late last year. Our trips followed Governor Gavin Newsom's historic October 2023 mission to China. These visits have been critical, as it's an important time, more than ever, to engage with China. After recent decades of historic economic growth, China is refocusing on climate and environmental actions. China has committed to peaking carbon emissions nationally by 2030 and achieving carbon neutrality by 2060. And some Chinese provinces and municipal governments have set even more aggressive targets. Deploying clean transportation technologies is a cornerstone of China's climate strategy. So today, through public policy and public investment, China has become a world leader in the development and deployment of new energy vehicles. Last year, China surpassed Japan as the world's #1 auto exporter. And BYD, the best-selling electric vehicle maker in the world. The city of Shanghai has reached 1.3 million new energy vehicles. The province of Hainan will ban the sale of internal combustion engine vehicles also by the year 2030. And last year, almost 35,000 heavy-duty zero-emission trucks were sold in China, while only a few hundred were sold in California. But in California, we also continue to be a global leader in the space in different avenues. We have codified our goal of reaching carbon neutrality by the year 2045 and reducing greenhouse gas emissions by 85% below 1990 levels by the year 2045. California is advancing the deployment of zero-emission vehicles both in California and nationally. We have set ambitious targets. We're implementing strong regulations and are making significant infrastructure investments. I am grateful for Governor Gavin Newsom's leadership in this realm. The state of California has signed climate cooperative agreements with our Chinese government counterparts, as well as with other nations worldwide. Through these cooperative agreements, we will exchange climate-related information and best practices with our international partners in several areas, including clean transportation. Our sector, despite geopolitical and ideological challenges that we see across the world, must remain fact-based in comparing, evaluating, and improving our respective systems. I embrace the opportunity to explore any transportation policy, technological or operational methods being used in China that enhance our core 4 priorities for transportation in this state: climate action, equity, safety, and economic prosperity, and help improve our overall transportation system. Roughly half of the zero-emission trucks sold in China today use removable battery swapping technology. And both Commissioner Monahan and I witnessed a heavy-duty electric truck battery swap technology demonstration in China. What we witnessed was truly impressive and inspirational. China has pioneered this battery swapping technology, allowing electric trucks to quickly exchange a depleted removable battery pack for a newly charged one. It takes about 5 minutes to swap out a removable truck battery, much faster than the 30 to 60 minutes it takes to charge a fixed battery heavy-duty truck at a charging station. Today, we will see presentations about other potential benefits to this approach, such as the potential for battery swap stations to supplement or support the electric grid. Outside of China, there are US and multinational freight companies currently using or planning to use battery swap technologies in their heavy-duty freight operations. I look forward to hearing from Ability Trimodal and the container shipping giant Maersk about their respective decisions to use electric heavy-duty battery swap trucks in their operations. So again, I welcome the key freight transportation stakeholders joining us here today, including representatives of logistics companies, utilities, ports, air quality management districts, and truck manufacturers. It is sure to be an informative conversation that will explore the potential business case for using heavy-duty truck battery swap technologies here in California and potentially across the United States. And we would also like to hear whether U.S. logistics companies or infrastructure operators will be interested in pursuing a battery swap demonstration project here in California. And before I introduce and bring up my partner, I also saw in the back of the room Jimmy O'Day. Jimmy, if you don't, wave your hand. Jimmy, forgot to mention him. If you don't know him, we did not have, prior to about 2 years ago, 2 or 3 years ago, we did not have a lead person for ZEVs on the transportation side in our state, and Jimmy has assumed that role. So Jimmy, thanks for all that you do at Caltrans, leading a lot of our efforts as well. Anybody else from Caltrans or CalSTA that I missed? Okay, give Jimmy a hand as well for all the work that he's doing. So with that, I want to bring up, again, my partner in this effort, in addition to the ITS team here at Davis, Commissioner, she's the transportation lead at the CEC, Commissioner Patty Monahan. Please welcome her.
Well, good morning, everybody. I actually feel like I'm coming home, like my family of people involved in heavy-duty transportation, from ports to NGOs to academics. It really is I would say like a small, and our federal partners from US EPA. But you know, the brain trust working on decarbonizing transportation and particularly medium and heavy duty vehicles is small but growing, I would say. And California, of course, is the center of gravity in the United States for this work. And I look around and I see a lot of the movers and shakers right here. So just thank you guys for participating, for coming to this event, and really looking forward to the day and the conversation and to really learning what we can from what's happening in China and see what we can bring here to California. We've had a long history in California of working with China, whether it's around migrating the California ZEV policy to China or these visits that Dr. Wong has facilitated that bring Californians to China and bring Chinese experts to the United States to be able to dive deep into these issues, to work together, because, as we know, the climate is in crisis. And this is the moment for zero-emission transportation. This decade is when we need to make the changes necessary to protect the climate. And I feel like we do have the political will in California, we have the smarts in California, and we need to learn from our international partners to identify best practices, to bring them globally, to scale them, and then to decarbonize transportation. So I want to start by saying it's always nice to go after Secretary Omishakin because he thanks everybody. He's so adept and and thoughtful. He also, I want to give a shout out to the secretary because anybody who knows him knows that he is a problem solver. He rolls up his sleeves, he's nice to everybody, but he gets down to business and gets things done. So a wonderful partner to work with. I won't repeat all the thank yous that he so adeptly already did, but I will give a shout out to Dr. Wong and the UC Davis team, especially Emperor Sperling. You need to change your hat to a crown. You know, you have been such leaders and supportive of government agencies to bring best academic practices to us and vice versa. And these trips to China have been, for me, just one, I would say, of the most transformational, eye-opening experiences I have to see the scale, to see the change that's happening in China, and to figure out, well, what can we learn and what can we bring here to California? So everyone knows here about the contribution of medium and heavy-duty vehicles to criteria pollutants, I would say, in California, so I'm not going to belabor that. But I will say, you know, the Energy Commission, we are responsible for doing analysis around the build-out of infrastructure for zero-emission vehicles. And our analysis indicates for medium and heavy-duty vehicles that we're going to need about 114,000 chargers by 2030. Right now we have about 2,000. It's a little bit hard to get the numbers because some of these chargers are behind the gate, so they're harder to get the data. A lot of these chargers are actually for Rivian, Amazon delivery types, so they're categorized in the medium and heavy duty space, but they're really more in the light duty category when I think of a charger versus the big megawatt chargers that we're seeing for the Tesla Semi. But it's, as somebody who works on the build out of infrastructure, it's hard. There are barriers. We're making great progress. The state has ponied up billions of dollars for this. The federal government, the current federal government, is very supportive and helping fund this transition. We just got awarded a $100 million grant from the Department of Transportation to build out chargers along the entire West Coast. So we're very excited about that. But the more optionality we have, the better it is. I think what we right now are not seeing anybody do battery swapping at scale in the medium and heavy duty space. And so today's conversation, I think, is a really important platform for diving deep into whether there's a missed opportunity there for California and for the United States. So I think the concept has been discussed for many years, and we actually gave a $15 million grant to a company called Ample that's working on battery swapping for light duty. But again, we haven't seen nobody's applying to our grants when we give out grants for kind of innovative charging solutions. Nobody's applied in the medium and heavy duty space. So I just want to say, that's an opportunity for the companies here. If you see something interesting in today's conversation, there's a potential eventually through a competitive, fair process for us to be able to fund that innovation. So with that, I'm going to stop and turn it over to our host to continue the conversation. Thank you.
Thank you, Patty. Sydney Burgess, Deputy Executive Officer of CARB, is sick today. So Annalisa Bevan, thank you so much for stepping in, Annalisa.
Good morning. Sydney expressed her regret that she couldn't be here today and apologized that she wasn't feeling well today. So I'm happy to step in for her. I thought I'd give a little bit of the why California is moving towards zero emission technology with all haste and effort. Mobile sources account for 41% of total greenhouse gas emissions, and 50% when you consider upstream emissions from fuel. They're also a major contributor to NOx and PM 2.5 emissions. And medium and heavy-duty vehicles contribute a quarter of the transportation sector's GHG emissions and a third of the transportation sector's NOx emissions. That's a really disproportionately high proportion, considering these vehicles represent only about 6% of the 30 million registered vehicles in the state. So what are some of the strategies that we're taking to achieve emission reductions and transition to zero emission vehicles? We have a suite of policies, incentive programs, and regulations. I'll focus a little bit on a couple of the regulations. In particular, the Advanced Clean Fleets regulation that ensures a supply of available zero-emission vehicles that continue to grow over the coming years. It requires manufacturers to sell zero-emission vehicles as a growing percentage of sales in all vehicle classes starting in 2024, right now. The ACT regulation is expected to result in 320,000 ZEVs by 2035. And 8 other states have adopted California's regulations, most recently Colorado and Maryland, but also New York, New Jersey, Massachusetts, Washington, Oregon, Vermont, Colorado, and Maryland. So as California goes, other states follow. And then our Advanced Clean Fleets regulation is a demand-side regulation. It has 4 main components that complement the Advanced Clean Trucks requirements. First of all, it took the requirement for new truck sales even farther by setting 2036 as the deadline for all vehicles sold being zero emission. And then for drayage trucks, this is on the user side, the requirements apply to all tractors operating in the state, seaports and rail yards. The requirement is that new trucks that come into drayage operation have to be zero emission starting this year. And we expect the fleet to be fully zero emission by 2035. Then high priority fleets have requirements that start also this year. These are federal agencies and well-capitalized fleets with 50 or more vehicles or with greater than $50 million in annual revenue. So beginning this year, any new additions to their fleet must be zero emission or near zero emission with a minimum all-electric range, and legacy combustion-powered trucks can keep operating in California until the end of their useful life. The state and local government fleets must purchase zero-emission vehicles along with their normal purchases. The requirements start at 50% in 2024 and 100% in 2027. Agencies designated in low population counties or divisions with 10 or fewer vehicles are exempt until 2027. I'm getting into the weeds here, but and then the ACF regulation is expected to increase the number of medium and heavy-duty ZEVs in California to 510,000 by 2035, 1.35 million ZEVs by 2045, and 1.69 million ZEVs by 2050. These EVs will displace combustion-powered vehicles, resulting in substantial NOx, PM, and GHG emission reductions. And the ACF rule is expected to result in $26.5 billion in health savings and $48 billion in additional cost savings to fleets by 2050. So, infrastructure is critically important to all of this. The success of the market rollout of zero-emission vehicles is integrally dependent on infrastructure. Our Energy and Transportation Agency partners take the lead in planning for and funding zero-emission infrastructure, and CARB also supports infrastructure development and zero-emission fuel through the Low Carbon Fuel Standard. And that regulation is currently being amended to strengthen the standard and incorporate provisions that support development of heavy-duty hydrogen and electricity fueling stations. We also work closely with our regulated communities, the fleets, to hear their concerns and challenges with establishing or accessing fueling infrastructure. Some of the challenges that they've encountered include the timing for needed upgrades to the electrical grid to deliver needed levels of power, permitting delays, and fueling station reliability. We've been working closely with CEC, with the Public Utilities Commission, to streamline and improve the process for establishing and operating zero-emission fueling infrastructure. These partnerships are absolutely critical to the success. And I look forward to a constructive and educational dialogue today around this potential infrastructure solution. I visited Beijing Automotive Group, I couldn't figure out which year, but it was many years ago, and got to see battery swap for a light-duty vehicle, and have always been interested to see how that would develop over time, and so very much look forward to this conversation. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. For those of you who have not spent an hour over Zoom speaking with me or had multiple phone calls with me, my name is Timothy Hughes. I am a graduate student here at the Institute for Transportation Studies at UC Davis, where I work on Chinese zero-emission vehicle developments under the leadership of Director Yunshi Wang of the China Center for Energy and Transportation. I want to first just give thanks, number one, to Director Yunshi Wang of the China Center for Energy and Transportation. I want to thank the Emperor of Transportation, Dan Sperling, founding director of the Institute for Transportation Studies at UC Davis. I want to also thank Secretary Omashakin and his teams at the California State Transportation Agency's incessant support of us today. Today would not have been possible without both Secretary Omashakin and Commissioner Patty Monahan's team at the California Energy Commission. So thank you very much for your time and energy. I also wanted to take a second and thank Margaret Wong and Linda Zhang, who are here in attendance. Thank you for being here today and your efforts. My background is spent in China. I studied and majored in Chinese in my undergraduate degree, and then I spent years on the ground obtaining a master's degree at a Chinese university and spent a year as a journalist. And so that's the reason why I'm here today at the China Center for Energy and Transportation, is to provide and help provide information and intelligence to relevant parties within our state and private sector. I would like for all of us to take a look around the room. Those of us in the room are quite literally the playmakers and the stakeholders and the major participants within our state of California's transportation industry. Each of you here are today owing to both your unique and important role in our state's zero-emission vehicle and zero-emission truck transition. What we do in the next years and decade will forever shape and change the way transportation is conducted within the state of California. And as California leads the nation, so does the whole nation goes. And what we do today and in the next few years will shape future yet unborn generations. As China is the world's most advanced zero-emission vehicle market and industry, it is important for us to have an understanding of their experiences. In 2019, battery swapping for heavy-duty trucks accounted for 5% of China's heavy-duty zero-emission truck deployments. In 2022, 3 years later, battery swapping accounted for over half of China's zero-emission heavy-duty truck deployments. This year alone already, China has deployed roughly 35,000 zero-emission heavy-duty tractors. And the plurality of these tractors deployed are using battery swap technology, with the remainder being divided between hydrogen fuel cell and conventional plug-in battery electric trucks. The reason why we're holding today's forum is to allow and make our stakeholders aware of this transition. Many individuals have been unaware that battery swapping has rapidly become the dominant technology used for zero-emission trucks in China. Well, we have to have an understanding that this great transition occurred in just a few years, from 2019 until 2022. What also occurred during this period of time? COVID. And so for those CEOs who had often been going over to China 2 times a year for the past 30, they had not been on the ground for the past 4. And so quite literally, people have not been on the ground to see how this technology has rapidly taken off. So the reason why I'm up here right now is to give us the 3 main goals of today's forum. The first one is education. We want this to be an educational forum for those stakeholders in the state of California to become aware of how this technology has rapidly taken off in the world's most advanced zero-emission vehicle market. The second goal of today is intelligence. We would like to actually gain an understanding from the stakeholders in the room here to what extent that they are aware of this technology, to what extent they can foresee this technology being used in their respective industries, and what inhibiting factors they can also see that may prevent this technology being used in their respective industries. And then number 3 is to determine interest in a potential future demonstration pilot project that can be used to gather data to see if this business model is viable here in California or the United States, battery swapping. We have brought everyone into the same room for main reasons. We've brought our ports into the room here today from the state of California to educate them on the reasons why drayage operations in China have rapidly shifted over to using battery swap technology for heavy-duty zero-emission trucks. We've brought our utilities in here today to educate them on how the Chinese are experimenting with battery-to-grid peak shaving electricity exchanges. As we just heard from the California Air Resources Board, there will be hundreds of thousands of zero-emission medium and heavy-duty trucks on the roadways in the next decade, owing to the ACF. How might these zero-emission trucks be used to help stabilize and create a resilient electricity and utility grid? Our trucking companies are here today for us to educate them on why Chinese trucking companies have adopted battery swapping technology. And our air quality management districts are here today because battery swapping in China rapidly took off owing to an air quality issue, owing to the fact that the Chinese government came to a lot of these heavy polluting industries, steel, cement, freight liners, and said, you need to reduce your air pollution. We don't care how. You figure out how to do so. And they independently decided to shift over. They realized that they themselves could not reduce their air pollution, but through their ancillary, through their secondary industries, which was trucking, that's how they could reduce their air pollution, through retiring their heavy-duty diesel trucks for an alternative zero-emission vehicle truck. And we also have our truck manufacturers today here also, so that we can educate them on the experience in China of the initial hesitancy of Chinese truck manufacturers to begin manufacturing battery swap trucks, and how it actually took mediation from both the trucking companies and government to bring the trucking manufacturers around to this idea. And now today in China, there are 15 major truck manufacturers all making their own models of battery swap trucks. And finally, we have our government officials here, our state lawmakers, our state assembly members, so that we can educate you on what is occurring in the world's most advanced zero-emission vehicle and truck market. Because you yourselves are drafting legislation which will act as a catalyst to other future changes in the state of California's transportation industry. So with that being said, I want to conclude my remarks by just allowing us to remain aware and remain cognizant that we are here today to become educated, to learn about this new technology, and to have open ears and to have fun today also. So thank you so much, everyone. Appreciate your time. And we're going to now shift over to our first panel of the day, which is Battery Swap Technologies Overview and Adoption in China, which will be moderated by Yunsha Wang. So thank you very much, everyone.